Welcome back to the Haunted Beard, everybody. My name is Jake. Thank you for joining me. Today, I want to give you my thoughts for Dead Talents Society. This is a Netflix film coming out of Taiwan, a supernatural horror comedy. I've got some thoughts here for you, so let's get into it. Dead Talent Society follows ghosts who want to become the spookiest of urban legends and most successful and famous stars in the underworld through their scare tactics and performances amongst the living. So essentially what you've got here is a ghost story told from the perspectives of the ghosts. And it's all played for comedic effect. And what you learn early on in the film is that there is an entire sort of entertainment industry in the supernatural ghost realm where ghosts have an actual haunting license. And that is essentially how they kind of make their living in the undead world, sort of thing. And that's how they gain fame and notoriety. They're trying to develop their own urban legends, and by haunting certain places in certain areas, and that's how they gain their fame and notoriety. That's how they earn their living and things like that. And so you got a little bit of this sort of reality TV type aspect to it, as there's this kind of competition that starts developing amongst the ghosts, and they're all kind of vying for who can be seen and who can be the most famous. Now, if you've been following my channel at all, you may know that I'm not typically a fan of horror comedies. More often than not, I'm kind of more on the negative side. I don't typically like when the comedy gets infused. I feel like it often kind of takes away and it's at the expense of the horror. And Dead Talent Society is a film that plays more into the comedy. This is not a movie I would say is really all that scary. I would say it's definitely lighter on the scares. However, I think this is going to be kind of one of those rare exceptions where it leans more heavily into the comedic kind of entertainment, fun, lighter aspects of it, and it still provides a pretty satisfying experience overall. And this is one that I would say would be a little bit more entry-level horror, as I feel like it would appeal more to a bigger, broader audience. But I wouldn't let that deter from any of the more kind of hardcore horror fans. And I think what really worked about this for me is that it's just really unique, and it feels different and fresh and creative and special. And so even though it's not the really intense horror experience, there is enough of that going on here, and they do it in such a creative and entertaining way that overall I enjoyed myself quite a bit. So what ends up happening is the young girl who becomes our lead character, she goes by the Rookie. That's what they call her in the film. She's a ghost, she's dead, and what happens is her family loses something of hers that was valuable, and there's this kind of significant memory that's attached to it, and because they lost it, that affects her life in the ghost realm, and she starts glitching out, and what that means is she has 30 days before she permanently just disappears forever. And so she has to figure out a plan of how she can survive and live in the ghost world without disappearing. And so she ends up auditioning to get a haunt license so that she can continue to live. And it doesn't go well. Now, what I think works in this film the best, in addition to, I think, the unique style and approach, has to do with, there's just a lot of style to it, a lot of just kind of visual flair. There's just very quick, snappy editing, kind of sound effects, interesting music choices, just very sort of stylistic camera shots and camera movements and things like that. And so it just has a very good way of engaging the viewer visually through the editing choices and things like that. And I also think the film does a pretty respectable job with the writing and the characters, as this is a film that not only plays into the comedic elements, but it also does a pretty good job with the emotions and the drama of it all. As our lead character, she is a girl who has felt really kind of unseen for her entire life, and that aspect has continued into her life in the ghost world, as she doesn't feel like she's good at anything. She doesn't feel talented or worthy or acceptable of anything. She just feels like she has no talents or abilities and is just totally this kind of invisible thing that just exists. And the film does a really good job kind of tugging on your heartstrings at certain times and actually kind of digging into some deeper themes than I would have expected. And so I think the film does a good job kind of juggling and handling the kind of comedic stuff with some more of the more serious drama stuff. And it starts digging into some things about just self-image and acceptance. And there's kind of this question that's posed towards the end of the movie in like, what does it really mean to be seen? And you've got all these characters in the ghost world that are just trying to be seen. And obviously that's just a big question in general for people. And just kind of evaluating, you know, what do we do? Who are we living our lives for? Are we living our lives for other people and to be accepted and seen by other people? Or, you know, why do we care so much about what other people think? And so the movie just does a really, I think, effective job kind of digging into those and exploring those sorts of themes and ideas that I just wasn't expecting and was kind of pleasantly surprised with. The film, too, does have a couple references to some classic horror movies that I think horror fans will definitely appreciate and will get the connection there. So I appreciate that aspect. And I really liked the world building. I really liked just this idea of having to, you know, logistically plan out how you're going to scare people. And I don't know, just that concept and that idea was just really cool. And looking at the ghosts sort of carefully planning how they're going to scare people. I would recommend this one. If it sounds interesting to you, I definitely think it is worth your time. It's still kind of on a personal note. I still prefer kind of the more serious, dark horror stuff than to the lighter comedic stuff. But for a horror comedy, this is definitely one of the better ones I've seen recently. And so I just had a fun time with it. It's creative, it's unique, it has a different, fresh kind of perspective. It's got some nods and stuff to people who are horror fans that they're going to appreciate. It does have some good kind of bloody fun in there as well. And it does a good job kind of balancing the more comedic tone with the more serious, dramatic tone. And it had more kind of dramatic depth to it and emotional weight to it than I was expecting, but I think they pull it off pretty effectively. So yeah, had a pretty good time with this one. I'm gonna go 7.5 out of 10 for Dead Talents Society. So those are my thoughts. Hit me up down below. Let me know your guys' thoughts on this one. Very much interested in what you thought of this one. That is all I got for you. Thank you so much for watching. If you got anything out of this video, go ahead and do me a favor and do not click that subscribe button unless you want to be haunted by the beard.